my name is Isabella Greene. Welcome to my channel. Today I would like to talk to you about new levels of embodiment, something that we hear a lot about nowadays, but do we really know what that means from the ground and up? I'd like to share with you the process, the steps, and the state of being in hopes that this assists your understanding of what it is that we are calling the new levels of embodiment and where it is that we're headed as a awakened or awakening collective. In my deepest belief, the new levels of embodiment are attained through deep inner work. That includes different levels and different modalities of shadow work that leads us into a different state of being, a different state of consciousness, and then we are able to embody that state of consciousness, and that state of consciousness comes with new set of skills and abilities and understanding. And let me elaborate on this a little bit more. When I say that the shadow work is required, what is it that I really mean? I have observed throughout my own journey and the journeys of my clients that I've known for years that would take a session and then go do their own process or be about their own process for a couple of years and come back and share more. So I've had a number of cases to observe this, and I also use myself as my own petri dish, so to speak. I've observed that the more we release, the more trauma, the more conditioning, the more wounding we release, the more we access what is called the higher mind, or the state of the higher self. We're also clearing the stuff not only for our own selves but for generations, and as we're doing that, we're leading the way, we are embodying, and we're showing the way. That makes us way showers. We're paving the new page and the new tracks for the people who are following us. The beginner phase of awakening is over for majority of light workers on earth. Congratulations, we have tipped the scale of that 1% that's required to awaken the rest of the population. What do I mean by the beginner phases of awakening? The first step of awakening is recognizing that you are in charge of your experience. You are the one creating your reality based on the imprints from childhood, from generation to generation, based on conditioning, based on set of beliefs. You are the set of beliefs, conditioning, and traumas that come with the whole human experience. When we recognize that, and we recognize that we're constantly producing that frequency, and we're constantly matching and bringing into our experiences events that match the conditioning of generations. When we recognize that and are able to, through work, through understanding, through meditation, through different methods that I teach too, we're able to interrupt that. We're free. We're liberated. We know now that we are in charge of our experiences, we're in charge of our lives. We've always been, but we just did not know that, so we kept saying, why am I becoming my mother, for example, right? Now we are awakened enough to have a choice. This is the first step of awakening, recognizing that you are the creative being here and you're able to be in charge of what it is that you're bringing into your reality, what it is that you're manifesting, what it is that you're matching, removing that, clearing that, creating a whole new subconscious program so that you can start matching something else, something perhaps better or even better than that. That's the first. The second step of awakening is usually anger. And the people who experience the first step of awakening and then recognize that, everything that we've been taught, everything that is happening on earth, everything, the whole entire system is false. The whole entire system serves what does not serve the expansion of human being, and people go into anger. And sometimes that phase lasts a while, and so this is why we have the whole layer of population that is into conspiracy theories and lashing out on the system and blah, blah, blah. But that phase ends as well. And that ends if we want it to end. We can spin in that space forever if that's what our choice is. But when we know that we are in charge of our experience, we can move ourselves out of that phase as well and start moving more towards the state of embodiment, the new level of embodiment. If you want to understand the new level of embodiment from the intellectual perspective, I would recommend reading a book, Tao or Tao, the book on Tao. This is my beat up copy that I've been reading for 20 years. Tao Te Ching. I personally have this Stephen Mitchell's translation, which I absolutely love. It explains, in my understanding, the teachings of Lao Tzu is an attempt to explain in human terms what it is to live that state of being, the state of source consciousness, the state of higher mind through the human form. If you read Emerald Tablets, like the teachings of Thoth, for example, it's the same thing in a little bit more complex terms. Lao Tzu did a very good job on explaining things as simply and as easily as possible. However, here's the thing. You will not be able to grasp it intellectually. And it actually says it in that book, that the mind is limited. The state of being that is developed through clearing your blocks, through clearing your traumas, through clearing your childhood conditioning, and constantly working on yourself towards embodiment of the higher state of mind. This is what brings you the experiences that allow you to understand what it is, or what the higher mind is, what source consciousness or the Christ consciousness is, that is talked about so much. So I've been reading this book for 20 years, but every year I think that I got it, and every following year I get it a little bit more as I progress on my journey. I see that being on the path as kind of dismantling of self. And I'm not promoting fragmentation here. Fragmentation happens through our upbringing, where we reject and deny and lose parts of ourselves and they go into the subconscious, or we try to amplify the parts that we like, but it creates imbalance. It creates fragmentation. But what I'm talking about here is looking at every aspect of yourself, your life, your events in life, what it is, your personality, your state of being, looking at all of it in different compartments. I went through this myself, and I understand that this process works for other people as well, so I'm going to share it with you. Looking at our connections, our relationships, how we interact with people, looking at sexuality, looking at our own states of being, looking at our emotional expressions, everything, then looking at experiences in the higher realms. All of that is what we are. We're multidimensional beings where we have physical, emotional, energetic, non-physical imprints, and then the higher self, and then access to the void, which is the source consciousness. And we can embody all of that and bring it back into this vessel and live, when we don't have to always ask a question, how do I maintain the state that I experience during my meditations? This is the most common question that I hear in my sessions. People come in and ask this question over and over. When you're working on yourself, or you have worked on yourself, and you looked at every aspect within your personality, and you have started to approach your own being from a different perspective. It's like putting every piece in a different box. Here's my sexuality, here's my relationship, here are my connections, here's my emotional state, here's my abundance, here's my everything. And then look in every aspect of self. Here's my shadow, here's my light, here's my work, here's my service, all of that in a different box, and then clearing the stuff out of that box that no longer serves you. Asking yourself, what does that higher state of mind, on that higher state of being, or how would that higher state of being act or experience sexuality or interact with people or respond to people versus reacting in your reality? How would that higher mind that I just experienced in my meditation, that open-hearted state of oneness, how does that act in everyday 3D life? So we very much anchor that condition or that state, that consciousness, the source consciousness, the higher mind state into our everyday reality. And when that happens, you observe that eventually you're ready to put all of these pieces back together, because everything comes back into oneness. And we're able to walk the earth right now as the being in oneness within ourselves, when there are no aspects that are in conflict within anymore. And as we observe, there is no inner conflict anymore, because we've cleared every little box, every part of ourselves. What was conditioned and what is my true self? The true self is very much connected to the higher mind or the source consciousness. So how does that act? How does that interact? How does that bring forth the service? How does that treat the body? How does that live? How does that work? How does that state of being experience human reality? And well, that book, the Tao, the teachings of the Tao, can help you understand that as well. As we progress in that journey, our natural human supernatural abilities come online more and more. It is the natural progression of events. People want to jump into developing their supernatural abilities, telepathy, bilocation, telekinesis, all of that. But when we do it before our mind is ready, before our boxes are put back together into the stream of oneness, where everything is reintegrated back into self from the perspective of source consciousness, people become lopsided. People become unstable if they use techniques to force their abilities online and the mind is not ready. It's a very common caution, a warning. This is why people in the ancient days spent 30 years meditating in a cave before they were even allowed to attempt experiencing their higher dimensional or supernatural abilities. But we now are in an expedited, fast-track kind of reality. Things are moving fast. You can go through this process of compartmentalizing yourself, clearing every box, looking at every box, every part of yourself from the perspective of source consciousness, and making these changes and then bringing them back into oneness here, and then walking the path. And you're going to be not only in your own empowered state, because it's an incredible state when you are fully tapped into that from the human perspective all the way into the realms. You're going to have abilities to interact with higher dimensional beings or the higher realms and other realities that are super available to you. That's called bilocation. You're going to be able to know thyself really well because you now are able to have awareness of, or the consciousness of, what yourself really is, without anything hiding in the subconscious space, without anything coming out of the left field at you. So we arrive at the state of being where that meditation, or the access to the higher realms, the access to our abilities, the embodiment of source consciousness is constant and natural. And this is what we call the next level of embodiment. And the planet is helping. And everyone who are ahead of the game just a little bit, emanating that frequency back into your reality. The way showers are helping by being here, sharing this information, bringing the frequency forth. The celestial events are helping. Our brothers and sisters from out of this dimension are helping and holding us in the highest light. All we have to do is step up our game here and really, really want and really have this very strong intention to get there. And the human reality becomes easy. Everyone wants that ease of flow, of abundance, of state of consciousness, the peace, the lack of drama, the state of divinity embodied. You get there. This is our next level of embodiment, and it is absolutely available to everyone on this planet, especially with our year 2020 coming online now. So I hope this was helpful for you on some level, and I'm sharing the energy with you here. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It does help me quite a bit when my numbers grow here. That opens a lot of doors and helps me to bring more of this information to more people. I appreciate and love you, and I wish you happy embodiment. Take care now. Namaste.